Okay, today I'm going to do a review or a video talking about creatine. Now, I'll give you some key points in this video, but this is not a full exposition on creatine. Creatine is probably the most researched natural sports supplement on the market. It has a lot of positive research to it. It is one that would go in my box of things I would recommend to athletes if they wanted to try something to get, a little bit more of a natural advantage. And so let's first talk about forms first. Creatine monohydrate is the best form, okay, because no other form has enough research. Even though they claim it, there's not enough research to say that any of the other forms are better. So they may be equivalent, but they're certainly not better and certainly haven't proved to be better than creatine monohydrate. And creatine monohydrate is the least expensive of all those different forms. So I recommend if you're going to get creatine monohydrate, get it in the powdered form. If you were to get capsules, you'd be taking a boatload of them. So again, now let's talk about how we utilize creatine, and then we'll talk about some of the benefits and things like that. You have to load creatine. So in your muscle, you have creatine phosphate. When you take this creatine monohydrate, it increases the load of creatine you have in the muscle, and we break down creatine phosphate, or we convert it for energy. So every one creatine phosphate turns into one ATP. ATP is your cellular source of energy, okay? So what does this translate to as far as effects, okay? Well, probably the primary effect for creatine is when we increase this load, it increases your exercise capacity and can potentially decrease your fatigue. For a number of reasons, we also see that creatine tends to help, and I don't know that we're really clear because there's so many different effects that it can have, so we don't know which is really contributing to this, but it does seem to increase recovery from intense training. So I think that's probably one of the biggest benefits I find. I don't use creatine personally, I have in the past, but I think one of the biggest benefits is increased exercise recovery, the reduced fatigue during exercise, so increasing exercise capacity. There's even studies that show a small impact on increasing testosterone. So although the effect is small, there's a number of effects that it has on different parts of the body and different physiology that seem to be beneficial. So that kind of gives you a very, very basic overview because there's a lot of information out there. So how do we load this stuff? How do we get it, optimize it, and get it in our body? Well, basically, you can load it 20 grams a day over 5 days, although some people, that tends to upset their stomach. So I generally recommend loading at 5 grams per day. They've done studies, and they found that 3 grams a day over 30 days loads it equivalent to 20 grams over 5 days. I suppose, even though I haven't read this in a study, you could do 10 grams over potentially 10 days or something like that. But basically what I tend to do is just recommend that just people take 3 to 5 grams per day. Now the reason I say 5 is because there may be additional benefits at higher levels, some of those other benefits I was talking about. So taking a little extra, especially if you have a larger muscle mass, could be beneficial. So I just generally recommend between that 3 and 5 a day. When you do scoops of creatine, again, you can get this stuff pretty inexpensive from some good companies. And it tends to, they usually about 5 grams per scoop. Again, if you take the pills, you're taking a boatload of them. I think it just becomes a huge hassle. So again, creatine, very effective. Now, is it safe? Because a lot of people say, well, is it bad for your kidneys? Is it safe? Well, when your body breaks down creatine, a byproduct is this thing called creatinine. Now, creatinine is a nitrogenous waste that your body can get rid of. So your kidneys naturally flush this nitrogenous waste out. So I suppose if you were to overload it with that, it could be problematic. Again, if you're not overdoing it with the creatine, you should be fine. Now, that's considering that you have healthy kidneys. If you have any kidney issues, I do not recommend people even consider using this. So again, people that have kidney disease, listen, if you have kidney disease, you can't even drink coconut water because you can't flush out the excess potassium. So that's a whole other ball game here. Again, I'm not recommending you take this. I'm just giving you some key points about creatine. If I was doing nutritional counseling, again, branched-chain amino acids, creatine are probably 2 of the bigger ones that I tend to recommend for athletes. Again, I haven't assessed anyone here individually, so you have to speak with your physician and make that decision for yourself. One of the things I do not like about creatine is that it really bloats you. It definitely has shown in research and even empirically that it causes increased water retention. I personally don't like the way it feels. I don't like the extra weight on my body. I gain about an extra 4 to 6 pounds when I'm on creatine, and I believe that's mostly water weight. And it's deceptive because we think that that's causing muscle gain. Now, creatine does show to have to cause a small amount of muscle gain, lean muscle mass. But again, it's probably indirect through the increased exercise capacity, the increased recovery, maybe the little bit of increase in testosterone production, things of that nature. So again, I like this product. It's great. If you use it in normal amounts wisely, it should be very, very safe and effective. And I think that pretty much covers it. If you have any questions, let me know. Stay strong. I'll see you next time.